I am Sara Lieb, and this is Singing TV. Together, you and I, we're making singing simple. Today, as you can see, I have a very special guest, my boy Randy Ingram.
Hello.
Randy is a fantastic jazz pianist who lives in New York, so if you are in New York, I hope that you'll go and check him out. Check out his website. It's just randyingram.com, right?
It is, yep.
Great.
Yep.
He's out here for a gig at the Metropole tomorrow night. That's Thursday night. We're taping on Wednesday. Anyway, I'll get this out as soon as I can. Put it online. But Thursday, what's the date tomorrow?
Tomorrow, the 27th.
Thursday the 27th.
8 p.m. Cafe Metropole.
8 p.m. in Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles. If you are a viewer in LA, I hope you'll catch it. I'll be there. Randy's really wonderful, and we went to, I was doing my undergrad when you were doing your grad.
My master's
right?
at NEC, yep.
Yeah, so we haven't played together for a while, but I thought it would be perfect to be able to let him come on and talk about something that I think is really important, and that is playing rubato. How to play and sing songs rubato. What does that mean, rubato? Rubato means freely or without time. So what I mean is, if I was going to sing a song, for example, you know, and I counted it off, Our Love's Here to Stay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4. Or not before. It's very clear, our love is here to stay. You can count, not for a year, but ever and a day. The radio and the telephone, you can hear the time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There's the time, right? Makes sense. If we were going to play that song, same song, out of time, if we're going to play it rubato, freely or without time, I might give a cue, and I'd just say, it's very clear, our love is here to stay. That we know may just be passing fancies, and in time may go. Watch this right now. He's not going to play anything until I come in. But, oh, my dear, our love is here to stay. Yeah. So you can see, just with that example, that there's a lot that goes on with playing rubato. So we want to kind of give you perspective from the singer, perspective from the pianist, how to get used to singing rubato, how to know how to do it, and all that kind of stuff. So, the first thing I like to say is, when you're playing rubato, when you're playing out of time, and this actually has to do not just with playing out of time, but even if you're ending a song, and you haven't planned an ending, being clear to your pianist, and all of your accompanists, what exactly it is that you're going to do. And the way to do that is to show your breaths. So,
and look at them.
Yeah, and look at them, absolutely. But in fact, we'll do an example where I wasn't even really looking at you.
That's true.
We've got that experience, we played together, and you know, back in the day we played together all the time. So once you get to know your musicians and they get to know you, and you can kind of predict what the other is going to do, looking at each other isn't so much important as much as giving cues. However, at first, eye contact is super, 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 duper, duper important. Because, you know, if I go, it's very clear, our love is here to stay. What I was doing was I was actually moving my head. I was showing him, I was giving him time ahead of when he was going to play. And what I was doing was giving him time to breathe. So not only do singers have to breathe, but other instrumentalists have to breathe too. So Randy, why don't you talk a little bit about your perspective, and then we'll show again. how we did that?
Well, basically, you just have to listen, and it sort of helps if you know the song a little bit, you know the phrasing, and you know where the phrase is going to end, and there's going to be a little rest in the melody. And then, you know, I generally wait for the singer to finish a phrase before I move on, but sometimes there's a chord that has to come before they can start the next phrase.
Absolutely. So that's a really interesting thing because there's a delicate balance between, I've had the experience of playing with other musicians who, you know, I wanted them to take the lead, and for some reason they didn't know it. So let's practice you not doing that.
Okay.
It's very, I want him to come in now. It's very clear. Now don't do that.
Okay, okay, sorry.
It's very clear. I wanted him to come in. It's very clear. But the only way he's going to know is if I show him, either with my head or some kind of body language, that I want him to come in. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it makes sense to you, but with you guys, the reason that this can be so important and the way to do this is like this. It's very, and I'll give like an eighth note, clear, and I'll give it with my head, and that's going to be your cue to come in. Your cue to your guitarist, your pianist, your drummer, your bass player, whoever you're playing with, whether it's duo or an entire band. It's very, and here we go, right? So, even though it's out of time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and here we go. So there you go, and I keep saying here you go, I don't know why, sorry, I get, you know, this is all live, blah, blah, blah. But basically, you've got that eighth note space. You've got the space of an eighth note to show you, boom. And that for you is enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a conductor, you know, in front of an orchestra. You got to do something.
And you've got to give the upbeat. So if you're conducting, you can't just play 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't necessarily work. You've got to be able to have
like
one.
Here we go.
Exactly.
Yep.
And a lot of conductors, you will actually see, they'll subdivide their beats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now you know. So you had that and of 4, that eighth note space to know you're going to come in on 1. Or 1, 2, and 3. You know, if you want to come in on 3, 1, 2, and 3, right? That's the kind of thing that you would do. So this kind of thing is really important, and I want you to be able to practice doing this with somebody. And sometimes it takes a lot of time. You might have to practice together quite a few times before you realize what it is that you need to do. And before the pianist, you know, as a pianist, I'm sure you can explain, you know, you're thinking about a lot of things, right? You're thinking about the harmony, you're thinking about the melody,
definitely.
what changes come next.
Right.
Oh my God, what about, you know, what about the words? And in playing rubato, how important is it for you to know the words in terms of, like, setting the mood for what you're playing for, where to come in?
I think it's important, like, not only for setting the mood, but that's the easiest way to remember the song and, like, really know the song. You know, like, if you know the lyrics, you kind of know it a little more intuitively, and you don't have to think so much. You know, about where you are, what the melody note is, you know,
Cool.
sort of,
So,
that sort of helps.
So as you're looking at me, and maybe we'll sing a song, and then, or at least half the song or something, and then you can give your perspective on, like, what it was that we were doing, how we were communicating, and by the way, if you need something more from me in terms of communication, there may be something that I'm not communicating, and in fact there may be something that he's not communicating, and maybe if we can't do that, I don't think we will do that, but if we do, maybe we'll give an example of that, like we just did, right?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, say My One and Only Love, yeah?
Okay, that sounds good. So I'm going to set this up with an intro.
Very thought of you makes my heart sing. Shadows fall and spread their mystic charms in the hush of night while you're in my arms. I feel your lips so warm and tender. Of your cheek, whenever I speak, tells me that you are my own. You fill my aching heart with such desire. Every kiss you give sets my soul on fire. I give myself in a sweet surrender. My one and only, my love. Oh, my one and only love. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, Sara.
So, what we were doing was there was really in that performance, I think, quite an equal balance of Randy's going, oh, okay, I think we should move on, and me following him,
Yeah.
and me saying, no, I want to hold this note for long. And there was one note in there right at the end of, I think, the bridge that I was holding purposefully, not because I would do that as an artistic choice, but because I was wanting to say, wait a minute, Randy, wait. Okay, now I want to move on. And what I was showing him was he was paying attention to two things. When he wasn't looking at me, he was paying attention to actually trying to listen to my breath and saying, my one. Of course, our breaths, as we've said in previous episodes, are not supposed to be super loud. You don't want to constrict your larynx and your pharynx by going, right? But you can hear just the little bit of a, and that's what he was listening for, unless he was looking at me, in which case he could see it, or I was giving him this, my one. And it generally happens at the end of phrases.
Yeah.
Your perspective?
My perspective is A, you're awesome, and it's great to play with you
Me
again.
too. Sounds so great.
You know, there's moments in the song. There's moments where the melody comes in right before this big downbeat in the section, so then you've got to lead that. And there's moments where we go together, and there's moments where the chord comes in before the melody.
Right.
So that's
in
where I
these cases, there are
normally
a lot
have to
of
lead.
exactly. There are a lot of 3, 6, 2, 5s.
Yeah.
And if you know what that means in terms of jazz, great. There are a lot of chords that aren't. You're not just playing 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. There are a lot of things. For instance, just leading us in and
Right,
into
so,
it, a
yeah.
2, 5.
Just a little more
And
stuff
even
going
from
on
here,
there.
you'll maybe play a 2, 5.
Right.
The very thought of you. Does that make sense? So he was playing chords to lead into that.
Yeah, you
Now,
gotta set it up.
you likely will be playing with people who maybe aren't as absolutely fantastically awesome as Randy. That's okay, you'll get there. If you want to hire Randy, you know where to find him.
Yeah, exactly.
But in your case, it may take a whole lot more in terms of, wait, do you want me to do this now, or do you want me to do this later? You actually have to discuss, you got to talk about it, because...
Yeah, I do that with singers I work with. Some
Absolutely.
people want the chord before they start the phrase, and
Cool.
some people want you to kind of just go with them a little more.
So why don't you actually talk about maybe a couple singers you've worked with? I know one singer, well, you didn't even tell me this, but I saw lately, there's a wonderful Canadian singer named Nikki Yanofsky, who I saw you playing on Today's Show or something like that?
Yeah, and then CNN too.
CNN. Cool. So maybe you can talk about actually specific instances, different people you play with, and how they're different.
So with Nikki, she's from Montreal and she has a great band up there, but they weren't able to get them to New York to do these TV performances. So I came in at the last minute and we had maybe like a 5-minute rehearsal and then we were off to the studio.
Interesting.
So I had heard the recording she did. We did Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and I heard the recording off of her record, so I sort of knew how she was going to approach it, but really, she's so young, but she's intuitive and she just is amazing. And it was really easy to work with her. And it's basically, a lot of this stuff, it's almost like there is a little bit of a tempo, but then you just push it and pull it at the right minutes.
Exactly. It's sort of like taffy.
Yeah,
right?
The biggest thing is you just have to listen, and both ways you have to listen. And there's times where, there's like a note that's held out for a little bit in the score, and so if that were in time, the singer would know to hold it out for a couple measures, and then I've got to finish the chords before the next section. So when you're doing it out of time, you just got to wait for that to happen. And then as a pianist, you have to do it, to find the balance between doing what you want to do there and not going on for so long that the singer gets frustrated.
Right, and that's definitely on the singer's toes.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And while we're at it, this may be a good time to talk about, a collaboration versus accompanist.
Right.
So, in my opinion, when I play with my band, it's a collaboration. But at the same time, they're my band, and I say, I want you to do this.
Right.
Here's this. It's written in the music. Play it, darn it.
Yeah, totally.
But at the same time, there are also situations when, similar to when I'm a backup singer, I am there to make the fronting singer look and sound good. It is not my job to show off. And so why don't you talk about that as a pianist? Although you want to sound pretty, in accompanist situations, you're really making me look good.
Yeah, and again, it just goes back to really listening and really being in step.
And vice versa.
Right, and then knowing, maybe you do have a minute to play a couple extra chords or play a fill or something, but knowing how to do that tastefully so it doesn't break the flow of what the singer's doing.
Okay.
You don't want to take the energy away, because it could totally derail their whole kind of mood that they're setting up for the performance.
Let's actually do,
Awesome. Don't do this.
Don't do this. Well, there's a very interesting story, an experience that I had once, sitting at a jam session where a bunch of my friends were there. Everybody on stage were people I knew, and it just so happened that the drummer was, I don't know if he was on drugs or if he was just really into what he was doing at the time, but I was very clearly leading the song to go one place, and he was very, very clearly denying me of that. So I want you to do that right now. Set it up, and then I'll sing, and you can just take it away and screw with it.
Don't try this at home.
I was not looking at me like an echo breeze on the wings of spring. And you wasn't paying attention, right?
No.
And you appear in all your splendor. See, he was playing over while I'm trying to sing. Right. Because you want to
get the accompanist in the world,
right?
And play all my stuff.
Exactly. And so that was a good example of something not to do.
Yeah.
Because we as musicians, we like to show off.
Yeah.
Right. And we want everybody to know how cool we are and how good we are and how much we studied and how we got our bachelor's and our master's, and we live in New York or LA, and we play with all these famous people, and damn it, you ought to know that. But really, that doesn't serve the music, does it?
It's not very good. No, not at all.
So who else do you play with in a company, both as an accompanist and as a collaboration?
You know, I mean, I've played with a lot of people over the years. I used to play with Tierney Sutton a little bit when I lived back in Los Angeles.
Cool. Tierney, by the way, we're taping here at LA Music Academy. She's the head of the voice
She's
department.
fantastic. I did a little bit of work last year with a great singer on Blue Note named Christina Train. It was more in the pop world,
Cool.
but we did some duets on tour. That
Nice.
was sort of rubato.
Okay.
And again, you gotta listen. You know.
Cool.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I think this has been a good lesson. I don't know, anything more you think we should do?
Yeah, let's make you sound really bad for a second.
Okay.
All right, so I think the biggest thing that you can do as a singer is just be really confident, and also, like
This
I
is
said,
my show.
just
I don't
know,
want to make me sound bad. I'm kidding.
just kind of know what you're doing in the song, and there are those little moments where you got to let the accompanist like finish out the phrase and finish out the chorus, because like I said, a lot of times at the end of a section of a song, there's going to be a whole note there.
Absolutely.
So you know you don't want them to steal your thunder, but like give them a tiny little bit of space.
Okay, so I'll try to step on your toes a little bit.
Step on my toes, and
Okay.
also, you know, like we said, eye contact's really good, but at the end of something, you got to give a little bit of a visual cue, right?
Absolutely.
You can't just stare.
So I will just stare.
Just stare.
Let's see how we can
Just
do
stare.
that.
I'm going to try and be good here.
The very thought of you makes my heart sing like an April breeze on the wings of spring. And you appear in all your splendor. I didn't let him finish the phrase.
Right, because that's the
One and
whole note, the
only
melody
love. Exactly. So it should have been, all your splendor, my one and only. It's coming up here too. Love, the shadows falling. Right, I'm just stepping
Right,
on
there's
his
supposed to be
toes.
2 bars at the end of that phrase.
Exactly, and we should
So-
let him hold it out and play.
Yeah.
So there's a large amount of this that has to do with just sort of feeling the song and knowing where it should go, and a lot of it is intuitive, and a lot of it has to do with listening. And that's
Yeah.
something that we didn't talk about so much yet. Who do you listen, like who are some of your favorite pianists who play really, really well with singers?
I think, like, for jazz at least, I mean, I think Hank Jones, Tommy Flanagan, obviously some classic Oscar Peterson records.
Mhm.
I think
What about
sort of like the holy grail of that stuff, and this isn't modern, but are the Tony Bennett, Bill Evans records.
Oh,
There's 2
cool.
of them,
Mhm.
and they're really just amazing.
And you love them.
Yeah, sure.
What about some maybe younger, alive?
That's true. Nobody's allowed to mention.
Any of your, you, I think, are a wonderful accompanist. Any
Yeah,
of your
I think people a little bit older than me in New York, like Bruce Barth, is really amazing. I think he's been doing the Tony Bennett gig lately.
Oh, cool.
Tierney's pianist, Kristen Jacob, is
Wonderful.
really wonderful and really great.
Absolutely.
You know, anybody that's playing with Gretchen Parlato is going to be amazing. You know, Aaron is
Aaron Parks, Taylor
Aaron Parks.
Hennessy.
Yeah, those guys are just monsters. He's not a pianist, but Leonel Loeke is just one of the most phenomenal musicians you'll ever hear.
Absolutely.
And really, really great with her.
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, I mean, pretty much anybody is
You know,
really,
in terms of guitarists, also I think Romero Lubambo does a really good job.
Romero is phenomenal.
I mean, he's phenomenal as a guitarist, but
Yeah.
in terms of his accompanying,
Yeah.
I think is also really great. He plays with Diane Reeves
Yeah.
and Luciano Souza, you know, a lot of people.
I think for a little more traditional jazz guitarist, I think Russell Malone is a fantastic accompanist.
Totally. And he's done a lot of work with Dan
Like
Hall.
Diane Kroll, yeah.
Yeah. So those are things to think about, and I hope that you'll take from this lesson, learn, and you know, just get together with whoever you're playing with. It doesn't have to be a pianist, and it doesn't have to be the jazz genre either. But work with each other. It takes practice, just like everything else does. It's something that you really have to work on. And Randy and I have worked on this not so much together, but we've worked on it so much
with a ton of different people.
with a ton of different people that
Sure.
that we're then able to come together and play this like, you know, no problem. Although it couldn't have been no problem. You know, I might have said, okay, before the thing or after the thing, okay, I'm going to do this, why don't you do that?
Right.
That's important too.
That's
so,
totally important.
I mean, there are kinds of
Yeah.
communication that are not
Yeah.
just body language, but it's
Right.
important actually to say, I want this to happen.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, very good. Randy.
Awesome, Sarah.
Thank you so much for
You're
coming.
welcome.
I hope you'll check out more of his music. You've got a CD out.
I
Why don't
do
you
have a
tell us
CD
about it?
out on Brooklyn Jazz Underground labels,
Mhm.
records rather, and it's called The Road Ahead. It's my first record, and so
Your first record, solo.
True. Yeah. My first record as a band leader. You can tell I'm new to this stuff. And
Pimp
so,
it out, Randy. Pimp it out.
So let's see. If you go to bjurecords.com, that's our that's a little independent label in Brooklyn, and you can buy it there. You can find it on iTunes, Amazon. I've got a CD Baby page.
Good. Again,
Got some
Randy
other-
Ingram. I'm gonna keep talking.
All right.
Really big.
Go
So
for
let
it.
me know you can see this. Can you see it?
I can see it. Well, of course I'm not on the camera. There we go. And so like Sarah said, I'm out here in LA doing a few shows. I'm going to be at Cafe Metropole tomorrow.
Good.
And
What else?
Saturday I'm going to be up in Berkeley at the Jazz School,
Wonderful.
which is a really great space up there. And then back to New York and off to some shows in Europe this summer. And
Cool.
who knows from there.
Cool. So check Randy out. Certainly, if you're a singer and you want him to accompany you, you can go ahead and do that. Hey, we're just finishing up.
I just wanted to drop something off.
Sure. Thanks again so much. I'm Sara Lee. This is Singing TV. Together we are making singing simple with a little bit of Randy Ingram. See you next
Awesome.
time.
Thanks, Sarah.